My boyfriend and I are so much alike, and I found out why. Did anyone ever mention the phrase misery loves company to you in conversation? Well, that was the truth between my boyfriend and I. My boyfriend Connor and I met at our local park about 5 years ago. We both had been going through dark times in our lives and had conveniently sat on the benches adjacent to each other near the giant oak tree in the middle of the park. I remember the sad look in his eyes as I approached him, his beautiful emerald eyes meeting my own. I remember his silky brown hair matching the same color and texture as mine. Even our highlights matched in color. I sat next to him and started a bit of small talk, mostly about the local politics. Our soft conversation quickly became heated and full of laughter. Turns out we shared a lot in common. I was an avid kayaker that traveled to different spots around the country, and turns out so was he. I had a beautiful silver GMC Hummer to drag my kayak trailer around. He ended up walking me back to my car in the nearby parking lot, and I noticed he had the same style car as mine. I didn't see any problems when we found his car parked next to mine. In fact, I was overjoyed. Over the next 5 years, we grew closer and closer, sharing exact interests. We moved into a small townhouse together about 2 years in, went shopping and decorated it to look like a fishing cabin, and adopted 2 beautiful German shepherds. We were overjoyed to see our little home coming together. Connor brought up the idea of marriage at our 5-year anniversary. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, seeing as wedding planning would affect my progress of getting my PhD in marine biology. He seemed happy with my response, as he was studying for his master's in psychology and wanted to take his time. I don't know why, but his response caught my attention. Something felt eerie about it, but nothing I could pinpoint. Over the next few days, I noticed more and more about Connor that perplexed me. His body shape matched mine, minus the womanly features, of course. His waistline was thin, small muscle lines extending from his navel to upper chest. His pelvic bone slightly pointed out from his skin. His arms lacked muscle and his hands were bony. I looked the same, mostly due to an eating disorder I was working my way out of. His feet were abnormally big for a normal human size, and his nails grew long and oddly sharp quicker than I've ever seen, which apart from his slightly taller stature was the only difference we had. His hair, cheeks, eyes, and nose matched my own. I chalked this up to genetics being genetics in the past, but now that I had a second look, everything seemed off. I brought this up to my sister over the phone and requested that she talk to my mother. My mother and father are both scientists for a place called Vermilion Laboratories, and have been there since they were fresh out of university. I could sense a sudden hesitance in her voice at my request. Celia, you should go see Mom in person, she said, a small quake in her voice. Why? She cut me off. Just do it! It's for your own good! I sighed. All right. I grabbed my keys and pudged towards the front door. Hey, honey, I heard from the living room. Connor peeked his head out from the side wall. Where are you going? My sister told me to go see my mom about something. Why? I lifted my keys to set them into the lock, only for Connor to grab me by the wrist. I turned back, a wild look in his eyes greeting mine. Don't go! He jolted, trying to snatch the keys from me. I wrestled my arm back from him. His nails dented into my skin, tearing away flesh as he stumbled back. I quivered in shock. 3 long open wounds had been torn into my arm, pouring blood into the cracks of the wood floor. Connor backed off in shock, his wild look shifting into panic. Without a second thought, I slammed my keys into the lock. I blacked out. The last thing I saw was Connor lunging at me, and the door flying open as I made my escape. My consciousness came back in my car at Vermilion Labs. I looked at my arm. The wounds were long and deep. I took a pocket knife and cut my shirt to use as a dressing for my wounds, then quickly made my way inside, only to turn back and see Connor leaping out of his car at the end of the lot. I ran as fast as I could. Connor was right on my tail. Celia! His roar made my hair stand on edge. What the hell did I fall in love with? Who the hell is this man? Endless questions filled my mind as I ran down the seemingly endless halls. I made my way to the basement of the lab, hopping over the ledge that kept visitors from entering. I hit the first stair only to feel my ankle give away. I braced myself, each stair impact leaving bruises on my body. Connor's voice was far away enough to lend me a bit of relief. Have you heard of the backdoor game? My daughter was having a sleepover for her 13th birthday and had invited about half her classmates. It was roughly 10:30 p.m. The girls had finally settled in the living room and were watching horror films on scattered blankets, duvets, and pillows. At 0:22, I woke to the most harrowing choir of screams. I ran down the stairs within a microsecond. All the girls were clustered next to each other in the far corner, terrified, cowering under their blankets. What the hell is going on? Nobody spoke. They all just looked at me, genuinely scared. I slid across the floor on my knees to my daughter and gently shook her as she stared into nothing. Sweetheart, what's happened? What's going on? Mom, I'm so sorry. We never should have done it. It was supposed to just be a game. What's just a game? But before she could answer, we jumped from the sudden loud knocking coming from the back door. The room fell completely silent, apart from the knocking, and we all stopped breathing. Knock, knock, knock. Who's that? I asked the room, confused. No one answered, and I was starting to get very frustrated. Someone had best tell me what this game is you've been playing, or so help me. Every game has rules. The girl in the corner spoke almost purposely slow and quiet, but at least one of them finally answered. Her young and monotoned voice added an even creepier feeling to the room that I was not expecting. and a cold shiver spread over me as I listened and absorbed her information. The backdoor game has 6 rules. 1. At precisely midnight, dial 363636 from any phone. 2. Wait on the line for 36 seconds and a clicking sound will start. 3. Hang up the phone and wait another 36 seconds, after which the phone will ring. 4. Answer the phone and count how many clicks you hear. Once the clicks have stopped, hang up the phone and head to the back door. I swear this kid's voice was getting creepier and scarier the more and more she spoke. My mind skipped over the idea that this could still be all one big joke, an attempt to make me jump or something. But that look in their eyes was something so awful you could not fake it. 5. Knock on the back door the amount of times you heard the clicks. And 6. Wait for him to respond. This is where I have to interject. Whoa, 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 him? Who's him? And what do you mean by respond? He responds by knocking back. I swear the girl smiled. That's when you open the door and let him in. Knock, knock, knock. I slowly crept to the back window. From there, if anyone were in the garden or at the back door, I would be able to clearly see them. I whipped open the curtain and abruptly looked outside wearing my "I'm not scared of you" expression, and nothing. There was nothing. No one at the door, no one in the garden. Nothing. My heart began to slow. I leaned in closer to the glass to inspect the outside better. I got closer and closer, my breath creating condensation on the glass. I squinted my eyes, almost as if to zoom in on the garden, then knock. My body flew backwards to the floor with a hard and painful thud. Knock. What? How can there be knocking? There was no one there. Knock. Fuck! All the children were now screaming hysterically, but that haunting knock was still somehow much louder. Knock! One girl started screaming, "Let it in!" I did a bad backwards crab and scrambled on my hands and heels towards the kids. "Let it in! No, shut up! Just fucking shut up!" I didn't mean to swear at her, we were all terrified, but she wasn't exactly helping. My mind raced back to all the movies I'd watched and screamed at for them to just run and leave the house. I looked at my daughter, at all the children standing in my living room. Get them out! I scrambled to my feet and quickly ushered everyone out the front door. While we all stood in our night gear in the middle of our cul-de-sac street, I called all the girls' parents and demanded they come pick them up. I also called the police, not thinking ahead to how ridiculous and crazy my story will come across to them, but explained what happened nonetheless. And yeah, they thought I was crazy. It turns out that when they checked with the other girls, none of them had any recollection of even being at the sleepover. Over the course of the next 5 days, my daughter went blind. She would later tell me that all of the other girls slowly went blind too. The doctors put the mystery blindness down to parasites, and the police shrugged off my story and put it down to lack of sleep and stress. I haven't told anyone else about this, afraid of being called crazy again, I guess. But let me tell you this, I have not yet opened my back door. I hear clicking whenever I use a phone, any phone. It's starting to engrave in my mind. I hear it over and over. Click, 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 click. Odds of dying due to an elevator crash are about 1 in 10,500,000. That was almost a statistic. You have a higher chance of being struck by lightning, dying in a plane crash, or getting attacked by a shark than you do of meeting your demise from an elevator accident. That isn't to say that it doesn't happen, of course. I know firsthand. I was almost a victim of one. Which floor are you going to? I asked the elderly woman stepping into the elevator. Well, aren't you kind? Floor 7, please. I obliged as the woman claimed a spot against the handrail opposite me. I smiled at her. She vaguely reminded me of my grandmother. Wait, hold the elevator! A voice yelled desperately from somewhere in the lobby. I stuck my arm between the doors and they opened back up. A winded 20-something-year-old man soon emerged, dragging a short blonde woman along with him, both sputtering for breath. Thanks. 9, please. Whew. You got it, bud. I watched as the doors slowly shut before me. The elevator sat there motionless for a moment, as if pondering its next move. Hey man, are you sure you pressed the shit? Before the man could finish his sentence, the elevator began to plummet downward. My eyes connected with the old woman's as I grabbed onto the handrail for dear life. I'll never forget the look in her eyes. At first, fear jolted across her visage. Then her demeanor melted into one of acceptance. Like she knew that no matter the outcome, no matter if she lived or died, everything would be okay. That left me with a small sliver of solace as we continued to crash. It was over in a matter of seconds. Time seemed to move in slow motion as we hit the unforgiving ground. Metal screeched and crunched all around me. The impact sent me sprawling to the floor along with the others. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying that I would live. When I opened them again, the scene around me was absolutely chaotic. The man was rubbing his forehead, lying against the back panel of the elevator. His girlfriend was leaning over the old woman, who was completely unresponsive. The light overhead was flickering. I watched in confusion as the elevator doors crept open. Ding. They stayed there, exposing us to a long, cavernous tunnel. I shuddered, looking down the expanse and into the darkness. It was thick and oppressive. I averted my gaze, instead turning my attention to the old woman. She wasn't moving. Her eyes were wide open, staring listlessly at the ceiling. A small rivulet of blood trickled from her nose, deep crimson pooling beneath her head. The girl was hyperventilating as tears welled in her eyes. Shh, she's dead, I croaked, shattering the silence. Looks like it. She hit her head pretty hard. I doubt a woman her age could have survived a blow like that, the man said, groaning as he rose to his feet. His girlfriend buried her face in her hands, fat, sloppy tears wetting her palms. The man placed a hand on her back, but it failed to console her in the slightest. We need to call 911. Anyone have good cell reception? I asked, pulling out my outdated iPhone 7. The man reached into his pocket, producing a shattered, useless amalgamation of glass and twisted metal. I'm going to take that as a no. What about her? I'm not getting any bars in this death trap. The man sighed, returning the ruined mess to his pocket before turning to his girlfriend. Abby, look at me. I need you to work with me here. She reluctantly met his gaze. He locked eyes with her, tenderly brushing away her tears. I know this is hard, and I know that I seem heartless for not being more screwed up over it, but I'm desensitized because of my job. It's tough seeing death up close for the first time. I know that, and I promise you I will give you all the proper time and space that you need to mourn once we get out of here. But right now I need you to be strong, okay? Can you do that? For me? She sniffled, nodding her head. Good. I'm proud of you. Do you have your phone with you? Yes. She reached into her pocket and handed him a brand new iPhone 15 with a shiny gold case. He reached as high as he could, trying his best to get a signal. Nothing. I knew those new smartphones wouldn't be worth a rat's ass. Looks like we're going to have to try something else. Anyone got any bright ideas? He asked, turning to me. Maybe we could climb up the elevator shaft. I know it's a long shot, but it could take hours, if not days, before anyone realizes that we're down here. The man shook his head. No, that won't work. Based on how long it took us to fall, I bet that we're at least a couple stories down from the lobby. Unless you're Spider-Man, we won't be able to get up there. And even if we could, good luck prying those heavy metal doors open. I glanced around, surveying our options. That's when I saw it. A jet black phone symbol glared back at me amongst the floor buttons. This might work, I said, eagerly pressing it.